Hello YouTube, Mark here with another tutorial. This is a Unity tutorial about entering and exiting a networked vehicle with Mirror. It's an extension of my previous video, which was a tutorial about Unity multiplayer networking, where I cover the basics of networking a third-person animated player controller. You're going to have to be familiar with that video because we're extending what we built there to use in this tutorial. You can find that previous video listed under my videos tab, and that's titled Unity/Mirror Multiplayer Networking Tutorial. If you're looking for a single player beginner's guide to entering and exiting a vehicle, so a non-networked Unity tutorial on entering and exiting vehicles, this video is not for you. Just confuse you. So what I've done is if you found this video looking for just a single player entering and exiting vehicle basic template, I've included some links in the description for those videos, and they're also easy enough to find. Simply searching YouTube with enter exit vehicle Unity or something like that. But there's some links in the description if that's how you ended up here on this video. I suggest you try one of those videos. Now, on with entering and exiting vehicle networked with Mirror. Go ahead and load that scene from our previous project we worked on with the animated third-person controller network. Load that scene up where we left off. So we're going to go ahead and go to Window, Asset Store. You're going to search for MS Vehicle System. And we're going to get the free version. Maybe you should search for MS Vehicle System Free. MS Vehicle System Free. Go ahead and add that to your assets and import it. Now this is a fantastic package. It's quite an improvement. I'm going to go to Windows, Packet Manager, My Assets. And we're going to import MS Vehicle System Free version. Once we have MS Vehicle imported, we're going to go over to Projects folder, go into MS Vehicle System folder, and go down to Prefabs, Vehicles. You'll notice this last vehicle here in the prefabs, under prefabs vehicles. This is vehicle 5, which is a drift truck. If you have an IQ on the right side of the bell curve and you're not a millennial Gen Xer, you'll go ahead and delete that because it's stupid. Drifting is stupid. The idea that you modify a vehicle so that it malfunctions in such a way that it does get traction but looks cool, I don't know. That's even more stupid than putting a muffler on your vehicle to make it sound like a lawnmower, a loud lawnmower at the expense of horsepower. It's worse than form over substance. It's diminishing substance drastically. I don't know. It's stupid. It has nothing to do with the project. Just want nothing to do with drifting. You don't want any type of tardation infecting this project. All right. So grab one of the remaining vehicles under prefabs and go ahead and drop it into our scene.
make sure that it's above. Everything's above the ground there. You can see. It's okay if it's a little above. It'll drop down when we start the scene. Something like that, I guess. And then we're going to move up a directory from the vehicles back up to prefabs here. And go ahead and drag the control prefab into the scene over here. Again, okay, yeah, there it goes. All right, so we have the control there. Now, select control. You'll notice there's a component called MS Scene Controller attached to this control object. I want you to go ahead and click Start in Player. All right. Open up the vehicles list here and add a slot, a plus sign for an element under the vehicles array, and you're going to drag your vehicle from the scene, vehicle 4x4, into that vehicle slot. There you go. Now come on up to game objects. In this scene, we're going to create an empty. Just create an empty game object. All right. Click back on the control here, and where it says player none game object, we're going to drag that empty game object into the player spot. Now, you notice I have start in player, and then I have this empty game object that I stuck in there. This is kind of a half-ass roundabout way of working with the MS Vehicles package, because it's not really designed to be used with the mirror networking per se. We're going to have to hack around a little bit to get it to work in an easy fashion. What I really should do is rebuild this MS control to do it properly. But it's a hack. I'm putting an empty object in the player, initials player. We want it to start in player. And what we're going to do is we're going to attach a script that when our network manager instantiates our player, there's going to be a script on that player that go ahead and it signs itself into the replaces this empty game object with itself, so it functions properly. I know there's probably a better way, a cleaner way. We're going to get this working down and dirty as fast as possible, and that's what I came up with. So you know, don't you anal retentive programmers out there, don't beat me up too much. I know there's going to be a lot of comments about the proper way of doing it and restructuring the objects to instantiate properly, but this will work. So if you want something to work quickly and not necessarily the most elegant way, you've come to the right place. If you want the anal way, there's plenty of places out there too that are 3-hour-long tutorials rebuilding this. Okay, anyways, you can tell that I have a little complex about that. All right, so we have our vehicle in there. We've set up our MS Scene controller. Now, on our vehicle, select the vehicle from the scene. We're going to come in here. We're going to add an empty game object. We'll call it trigger. select that empty game object. I'm going to add a box collider component. We're going to click on is trigger. And expand this, say 4 on the X, let's see what, 6 on the Z, I guess. And let's raise that box collider up just a little bit. Let's start that in the 0.5 Y position. So now we have a box collider around the vehicle. Maybe we can make that more small. Yeah, let's make it 3. Scale it 3 in the X dimension, 1 in the Y dimension, 6 in the Z dimension. Yeah, that's good. And start it out on the Y position of 0.05. And then make sure it's clicked on trigger. All right, we're going to make a new script. Okay. And we're going to call it enter exit. Enter exit. Double click on that. No. Open it up in your editor. We won't need an update. First of all, let's describe what this script's doing. This script is going to reside on the vehicle. And when the box collider is entered by a player object, it must be a player object, then we're going to go ahead and disable the player model, change the cameras, change the controls over to the vehicle that used to be player controls for movement. The third person player controls now will be the vehicle controls. And it also has to do some things like grant authority to use the vehicle by that particular player. So let's start with using mirror. Change this to network behavior. Behavior. We're going to need on trigger enter, and we're going to need on trigger exit. Right. What are we going to need up here? We're going to need our controllers. We're going to need the vehicle controller. So let's do a MS vehicle controller. We'll call it MSVC. Right? And we're going to need that scene controller, MS scene controller. And we'll call that MSC. Right. And then should we set them here or MVC, right? And this MSSC. Right? So I guess we can set. Well, we'll set the vehicle controller there, right? So MVC equals get component. This is what? This is all right. This enter exit script will be attached to the vehicle, so all we have to do is get component because it'll be on the MS vehicle controller will be on this item, so we just use get component MS vehicle controller open close parentheses. All right. Now, do I do the scene control? No, let's on trigger enter. Let's check if the other object that's entering the trigger is a player. So if open close parentheses, do that, and then if other dot game object dot tag equals player, make sure that player is spelled exactly, the proper capitalization, everything. If it's not verbatim, it's going to shit the bed. So, and then okay, so if that object entering is a player, then what do? We have to find that control prefab in the scene. So, game object control equals game object dot find and then that is going to be, I think it's small cap control. Is that right? Let's check it out. Small cap. Oh no, it's capitalized. All right. All right, and then that particular component is located on that control object. Control dot get component, and then the MS scene controller open close brackets boom. Now this is where we set the variable that I was talking about. See on this control and see where we have remember where we set the initial player to the empty game object. Well, when the network manager instantiates our player, after our player is instantiated, it's going to run this, and then we're going to change that player game object to our third person controller. All right, so then you might be like, why are you doing this convoluted crap? Why not just rewrite the MSC controller? And believe me, you could, but I started doing it and I was getting all sorts of hiccups. It's better just to hack it this way, or at least I find it easier. Your mileage may vary, but this will get it working, and if you want to tidy up afterwards, that's fine. Maybe we will later too, because I intend on expanding upon this and maybe making it a full FPS. Somebody mentioned that in the comments. So MSSC dot player equals other dot game object, right? Yeah. Okay, so now we've changed that empty game object, and now we're simply going to do MSC dot enabled equals true, and on trigger exit when the player leaves, I'm going to do equals false. So as the player leaves the box collider, we turn the MS Scene controller back off. All right. Let's put the enter exit script onto the vehicle up here. All right. Up here under MSSC enabled equals true. Set player active SPA equals other dot game object dot get component dot set player active, and then we can close network identity player ID equals other dot game object dot get component network identity. Close. Network identity. This network identity. How about this network ID equals capital G get component network identity. Close. SPA dot command set authority open parentheses this network identity. All right, this network ID. Comma player ID. Semicolon. Let's put the enter exit script onto the vehicle up here. Pop it on there. Let's see. Okay, the enter exit script is on there. Check the console. Oh, we got an error. It looks like I forgot a semicolon. No biggie. Slap the semicolon. Forgot that. All right. Let's see. Fix that. I don't know if I recorded this before. Make sure that this canvas is off. That's under control there too. We don't use that. All right. This thing. Let's hit play and let's see what happens. Probably gonna shit the bed. Okay. Now you notice that this pops in at the same time the player does, or the vehicle pops in at the same time. That's because it's now it has a network ID on it, so it's going to enter the scene at the same time the mirror network manager pops in. Don't worry about that now, because we're going to later on create a dedicated host server rather than having the host server attached to the player. But right now this particular player is both host and a player. So anyways, that problem will be taken care of later. But okay, so we got a vehicle and we walk up to it. Got to touch it because that collider's there, and then hit the key T, and we enter into it. Oh, the camera's a little messed up, but That's right, that's sitting behind the building. When you push forward, okay. We'll turn around here. All right, and now we hit T once again, and we pop out. All right, hit T, enter back in. All right. Now it looks like it's working, but what happens when we do 2 players? All right. Now, if we were to run this with 2 players at this point, we would have a problem. For one of the players, it would show the vehicle moving, that the player entered the vehicle and the vehicle will be moving normally. And for the other player, it would show the player still standing by the vehicle and the vehicle standing still. And that's because we have not transmitted to both of these clients that the player has entered, and for the one client, the other client doesn't have the authority to take that vehicle. Only the server has the authority because it created that vehicle. So we have to create a script to take care of that. And what the script will do is that once the player enters that trigger, the box collider trigger, it will transmit to the other one that you hit the T key, it will transmit that it has entered the vehicle both on its own copy of this scene and then transmitting that to the other clients that he has entered, and the other copies of the scenes for the other players will do the same thing. So that is the command in the RPC portion. So we'll take care of that now with a script. All right, in our scene, select control, and from control, you have a component called MS Scene Controller Free. Double click on that script so it opens up in our editor. Just above Enable UI, we're going to add a function called Set Active Player Network. And that's going to take in a Boolean called active. And close. Here we're going to have a set player active SPA equals player dot get component set player active, and then open close parentheses SPA dot CMD player active, and we're going to pass in active. Oh, I have a semicolon. I made a typo up here. It's not S, it's active. All right. All right. So we added a function called set active player network. Takes in a Boolean. We have set player active SPA equals player get component. Set player active, and then SPA, we're calling the function CMD player active, passing in active. Okay, now scrolling up, just below input, get key down, controls enter exit. around it's around line 311, 316 here. We're going to replace this player.setActive with setActivePlayerNetwork. True. And here, let me comment that out. The reason we're doing this, we're calling that command function on the host machine so that distributes that command to all the clients. So whereas this player set active true, that's designed for a single player, that is just activating that one object for single player. That's what this vehicle code was designed for. We're changing that so that it calls this function within here that we just made, set active player network, and then calls the command function, which will share that message with all the players that are on this game. All right, I hope that makes sense. All right, so around line 316, we're going to replace that and scroll down, and then here, player set active around line 339 or so. We'll do the same thing. We're going to pass in false. And we'll go ahead and comment out that player set active, and then scroll down. And here around line 369, same thing. I'm going to pass in true. Comment that out. And then finally down here at line around 393, I'm going to pass in false, same thing, and comment this out. All right. So there's 4 replacements we're doing. They're all within this update. More specifically, they're within update and then the input get key down controls, enter and exit if here. So it's right within these 4. There's 4 that we're replacing, and we're replacing with that set active player network. All right, we're going to create a new script called set player active. So in project, right click, create script, set player active. Double click on that, open it in your editor. Be using mirror. Change mono behavior to network behavior. We can get rid of start and update. We won't be using those. We have a function called public void cmd set authority. It's going to take in 2 network IDs. So network two network identities. And we'll call it a thing, comma, network identity. We'll call it player ID. If thing dot connection to client is not equal to null, open close brackets, and thing dot remove client authority. Now thing dot assign client authority to player ID dot connection to client, semicolon. Right. I'll explain all this crap after I'm done. Actually, you know what? Move this outside of this if statement. So cut this out. Move this down here. All right. So if the thing doesn't have an owner, if it does have a current owner, then we're going to remove it, remove its authority, and then we're going to reassign it to this new player. What this is this set player active, command set authority will be called when the player hits the trigger and enters, and then the player will have that authority on the network to take control of that object. Right? The box collider will detect it and from the vehicle, and then call this. The command means that it'll be on the host. All right, don't worry, we'll get there. It's confusing as hell, I know. I'll have a link on the bottom for if you want to go more in depth into commands and RPCs and authority with mirror. I'll have another link on the bottom, and after I'm done with this script, we'll go over it again. All right, so let's just bang this code out for now. So we have command set authority, and then we're gonna have CMD player active. And we're going to take in a bool called active. Open and close. All right. RPC player active. And then pass active into that. And then game object dot set active active. All right, down here, public void RPC player active. Bool active. Oh, I made a typo here. It should be RPC. Oh. Yeah, that's right. Okay. And then just game object dot set active active. Last thing, to designate these as special network functions, we need to give it a directive from mirror, and that's just above where the function is declared. We put square brackets there, and then the word command. And then in parentheses, requires authority equals false. And then same thing for the next command, player active. So copy, and then come down here, place it above this, and then in the RPC square brackets, we'll say client RPC. All right, and then save this. All right, so what's this doing? We're going to end up putting the set player active on our player prefab, and this will be called from the when the trigger on the collider, when the player crosses the trigger on the vehicle, it will call these functions which will pass along the setting the player active or deactivating the player, and also setting the proper authority, because each client has authority over certain objects and the host has authority over all scene objects. So what it does is it'll call the host, it'll give authority to the client that crossed the trigger, the box collider trigger, hand that thing, which will be the vehicle, that authority over that thing will be assigned to the player that crossed that trigger, and then the RPC passes this command player active. What this is it tells the player to either activate or deactivate. It'll deactivate it when you enter the vehicle, that is, hit the T key when you've crossed and touching the vehicle, and then it'll reactivate it when you hit T and leave the vehicle, so that the third person controller pops back onto the scene. Now, the reason why we're using command and RPC is because the command will receive that activation activated on the host copy of the scene, and then calling the RPC will pass. The RPC actually passes that same command on to each client. Each client has a copy of the scene, so it passes that on. Sounds confusing, but if you follow through a couple times, and then, like I said, I'll have a link down there for another tutorial. It does a better job of explaining authority and commands and RPCs a little bit better than my jumbled word salad. But hopefully we'll bang out the code and you get a sense of what's going on. So, all right, now let's pop back over to Unity and drag set player active onto our player prefab. Wait for that to digest. Now click on vehicle, and we have to make sure it has a network. I put a network identity on there. Make sure it has a network identity component, a network transform component, network transform component, and click on client authority in there. All right, let's give it a try. Make a build. Now that you have your build, go ahead and start your Unity game. Make sure you're in the game window. I'll pull up your build. Double click your executable. Right, let's start the host server client on Unity over here. All right. Walk forward a little bit. And then with our client over here, we'll jump in as client. And there I am. There's the host. So I'll walk over to the vehicle. Hit T. Move forward. See if we can see it moving from here. Yep, there it goes. Excellent. Sweet. There it is. So we have the vehicle moving, the enter and the exit network. And there it is. There's networking the MS vehicle system along with our networked third-person controller. There's something that just occurred to me it should be added, I guess, is the box collider should be disabled, and that should be shared along the network so that two players don't enter into the vehicle, because theoretically, I guess I could enter when one person enters into it, and let's say the other player walks up, could also enter into it, and they'd both be fighting over the controls of the same vehicle, and they'd both be inside there, which I don't know. Is that a feature or a bug? I don't know, but maybe that's for another time. I hope this helped a little bit. I'm going to continue to do tutorials, and if you have any questions, put them down in the comments. I know this was a little convoluted because getting this MS vehicle system to work with this, it's kind of a ass backwards workaround, because that's designed for a single player, and I kind of jerry-rigged it so that it would work with our mirror networking. But I want to move on to some cool stuff, some first-person stuff. I want to do some animations, a lot of violence, guns, ragdoll stuff, blood, dismemberment, you know, all the things that make first-person shooters great. So like, subscribe to stay informed, and I'm going to keep on adding on to this. I'm actually going to pick up the pace a little bit. I'm going to be adding on more frequently and try to make it a little more entertaining, a little faster pace. All right, so hope this helped a little bit. All right, see you in the next one. Peace.